you back to this place that does not love you. What are you looking for?
Who are you?
Adriel Cuthbert. Maybe we'll meet again.
Hey there, superfans. This week sees the launch of Netflix's first ever Australian series, the supernatural drama Tidelands, and we were lucky enough to sit down with two of the stars of the show, Elsa Pataky and Jakubenko. So the first most obvious question was, how did you guys come on board Tidelands, and what was it that appealed to you about the project?
I read it. You just read the project, you get into it immediately, you know, and it was like such a good story, I think, amazing characters, and you know, of course, the mythology of like the sirens that I grew up with it and with those stories. So you always want to know more. So it was just really interesting to see how different it was of the story that you heard in a way, because we were sirens, or like half sirens, half humans, but there's no tales, which is like what immediately you think about. So it's much more behind in this story. It's not just that, and exactly what you say. The characters are so complex and interesting to play with. So I really liked it in the moment I read it, and we just had an audition, and that was it. And like shooting in Australia and really close where I was living, that was a plus for me. So it was great. Yeah. It was
very engaging script.
Yeah.
Even from the very first paragraph, I was captivated. I think Stephen's description of the water was gorgeous, and from there it was just a page turner, and like you said, exploring these complex human things that we all deal with in this really bizarre world, or this dark and interesting world. So it was quite a captivating read.
As actors, you guys kind of represent the two sides of the show, because it's on one hand a sort of dark, gritty crime story, and then this fantastical kind of otherworldly fantasy. How did you find that combination, and how do you approach that tonally as an actor?
It was actually really interesting because we were so separate. So then when we had our scenes together, that's when it was a blend or an exploration of the two, and it's quite interesting watching it back now, seeing the two worlds when they blend together. And how do we approach it? I mean, it's just committing to it, you know, just exploring what the differences are, and you know, I think that first scene that we have really sort of sets the tone for that.
Yeah, because like you kind of live your own. His world was like reality in a way, and now we're exactly as you say. Our world is more supernatural, and like you use more of the fantasy and the power, and you can play much more. And I remember having our scenes and like, oh, this is the real world again. You know, it was just like the Thailanders' world, which is so different, and you can play and do so many different things that in a real character. You know, that all the scenes that we have together, it was just like, okay, he's the real world, he's the humans. It's another kind of different type, of people. You know, which he's attracted to, I think, but he's just scared of them in a way, you know, and trying to protect her people from them, you know. But there's this attraction between his character, which is a leader too, you know, in his own world. So it's this interesting two leaders in two different worlds, putting them together, you know, and their relationship.
How would you describe the dynamic between you two characters? How do they relate to each other, and how do they conflict with each other?
Yeah, I mean, it's very complex. They're both leaders, so they have a lot of similarities. They've got their drives, their purposes. You know, for Augie, it's maybe more looking after this business that's been a family legacy for 7 generations, I think it is. And for Adriel, it's this. She goes on to have a lot of things that we can't really talk about now, but some quite amazing purposes. And then with that, it means you've got a lot of responsibility, both in our own worlds. So I don't know. It's just a really getting them together is a complicated relationship, because there's definitely an enchantment that comes from her. The siren quality, the siren song, it sort of draws him in, and it's that question of, does she like him as much as he likes her, and him battling with that lust that he has for her, that he's sort of wanting to reject as well, because he wants to be independent from that.
Now, of course, there's a lot we can't talk about now because the show is mystery upon mystery. But as playing Adriel, who's sort of the queen of the Tidelanders, have you been informed as to the backstory and the mythology, or are you learning as the audience learns and as the rest of the cast learns?
A little bit of both. We had a little bit like of just knowing and like talking with especially with the writers, you know. It was interesting to just see their world, like what they created and where we were going, like in the all the episodes, and the whole history that they had in their heads. You know, it was different. That's like the story that I know of the mythology, and of course I get interested and read more about with sirens and the different stories. But there's so many different versions, you know, that, and what we did is totally another world. So it was great to just, and at the same time we learned from it, like doing the scenes every time that you were doing, because we didn't know where the characters actually will end. Basically, we knew a little bit, but not that much. So it was interesting to just grow that information and how to change your personality into the character. Like it was just like you keep growing and growing in each episode. I felt like
Definitely,
that, yeah.
And what did you find the most challenging aspect of the production?
I mean, I think any time you step onto a new project, you're stepping into another person's shoes. And so really just understanding the differences that I have with Augie, or for me in this case, it was the similarities that I have, was actually a really big eye-opener for me. Looking at him, he's someone who grew up and maybe put himself or the small town village, put him in this box of what he thinks it means to be a man, what he thinks it means to be a leader, and how messed up that can be at times, how, you know, he's unable to ask for help, and that's something that I've struggled with. So it's a really beautiful way to explore and grow in your own life, and I hope that Augie can talk to audiences about that, and they can see these real struggles that I think men have.
And finally, what are you hoping that audiences get out of Tidelands?
Just like I would love for them to say they had a great time watching it, entertaining. You know, that's what we shows are. You know, having a great time, and like, because it's about that, having a good time. Yeah, and just loving it. I think.
Yeah. You got to enjoy what you're watching. I mean, there's a lot of great stuff on Netflix, and I certainly enjoy watching it. So yeah.